Good afternoon, everyone. Great to virtually be with you. Ramadan Kareem. I hope everyone is, as Amal said, staying safe and healthy. And I'm sure for many of you, seeing another person on a screen again is probably not your favorite thing to do these days, because it's, I think those of you with kids, especially younger kids, it's become a bit of a challenge. And it's sort of like a home renovation. If you can make it through that, you can make it through anything. And I think for many of us, this has been a trying time, but I've always been a really positive person. I think we'll learn a lot from this, and hopefully with everybody's health and safety in mind, that we get through it in a decent amount of time, and we can somehow get back to normal life. Those of you who may have been in the first virtual session, most of the information is the same. There's certainly a few things that have changed, including the status of the building and the questions. Certainly, we had a great question and answer period last time. Last time we had about 20 people, and I think it was just sort of started when COVID had started everywhere. And we had over 70 people sign up today, so it's really encouraging, and perhaps it's the time of day or during Ramadan. But again, we're really happy to have you here. I am going to do my best to try to encapsulate what we're all about, what our mission is, our vision, what my vision is for the school. Try to give you as much information without overwhelming you. In the sorry, I'm just we're doing something technically here. Anyway, without taking too long, as many of you know, synchronous Zoom meetings, which many of your students or children have been involved in, they can get tired real quick. And so I'm going to try to reduce the overall information into sort of bite-sized chunks, and then offer you the opportunity at the end to be able to ask some questions. And please ask anything. I might not have all the answers, but I'll do my best. And I'm really going to try to do what my mother used to tell me. She had me in elocution lessons, all my siblings, when we were young. And she always said, "You're talking too quickly. People cannot understand you." I'm going to do my best to slow it down. I'm a sort of an excited, fast talker anyway. And so I'll do my best. Anyway, again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen with the presentation. I'm not going to take questions during the session. It's just not practical to do, but please save your questions for the end. And as I said, and anything I can't answer today or admissions team can't answer, we're happy to get back to you either by email or phone or whatever works best. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, I think that worked. Great. That is, we'll start up. That's the artist rendition of the school. It is looking more and more like that every day. I've had a number of people, especially kids we interview, if we show them that, say, "Is it really going to look like that?" Well, it is, and the cladding's on for the but that is the campus. As you look at that picture, on your far left is the pre-K to grade 2 building, which winds into the grade 3 to 5 building. And that center section is a 2-floor cafeteria, and then a double-size library. Double-size meaning 2-floor windows out to the field and the other side cafeteria. And to the right is the grade 6 to 12, so middle and high school area. The picture is a little bit deceiving because it's missing 2 complete buildings. The gymnasium is where it looks like a parking lot, and the pool is right beside those. Those are the only exterior buildings, and that's by design so that we can use it on weekends and evenings, and it has community use. Oops, sorry, I'm just gonna, there we go. A little bit about myself. I've been an educator for 31 years. I'm originally from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. I've worked now in 3 countries, I think 9 schools, and I've been a teacher and or principal or head of school at every level. In fact, grade 1-year-old all the way through grade 12 graduation. I got here to Bahrain in September 2018. They brought me out 2 years ahead to oversee the project, which has been wonderful. It's very unique to be able to have that much time ahead. I had a lot of time to spend with the architects and the contractor, get to know a little bit more about Bahrain, and maybe most importantly, being able to talk to parents and educators and just find out what it is they want for children in Bahrain in terms of education. I was I worked with a family and a group prior to this in Hong Kong to to design and build 2 small schools. I did that for 4 years, and prior to that, I was the head of the Canadian International School in Hong Kong for 12 years. A large, approximately 2,000 student international school, pre-K to grade 12, was Canadian curriculum. We moved it to all 3 IB programs over time, over a 5-year period, to do the PYP, MYP, and DP. And I hope to take some of the successes we had there and bring them into American School of Bahrain here. Oops, that's not, okay. Just quickly, just some facts about the campus. It's a really great footprint, 17 acres or 60,000 square meters. The school itself will be 20,000 square meters of built up space. And a question I get asked a lot is, will you be doing that in stages? And the ESOL education group had decided very early that they will build the entire school, which, as I'll talk about in a little while, if and when we have to do social distancing, we're probably one of the few places that can do it. It'll never be easy, let's admit that from the start, but it might be a little bit easier because we have 57 classrooms and 17 acres and other facilities. We're going to do our best to be an innovative school. Over my 31 years of education and the last 26 in a principal or head of a school position, I'm reluctant to hire what I call suitcase teachers. I'm not interested in somebody coming here with a suitcase of their lesson plans that have worked for the last 5 or 10 or 15 years. I expect the students to have an opportunity to be innovative and creative, and I expect the same from the staff. I think we've got just an incredible group coming in. They currently teach in 11 different countries. Here's one of the positives of COVID. They've grown very close as a group already, and very few of them have ever met each other physically. We have a WhatsApp chat group. We have a Facebook page. We've done a couple of Zoom sessions. And so when I hire, obviously I want to hire great teachers, but I'm hiring a puzzle of personalities that I think will represent the vision and the mission of the school. Just a few other places there. I talked about the innovation makerspace, which is sort of a new term in the last 5 to 7 years. And it is literally a room where kids can be creative and curious and build and code and try new things. And, you know, if we want to do a 3D printer, there's a way with our IT manager, who's just to my left, 2 meters, by the way, who's talking about instead of buying one, let's get the kids to build one. So those are the kind of things we want to do. 2 libraries, 2 cafeterias. We'll phase those in as we get bigger in numbers. Same with band rooms, music rooms, visual art, and a comprehensive athletic facility, which I think will be the most extensive in Bahrain, if not close. 2 pools, which wasn't the original design. The original design was 1 6-lane, 25-meter pool. But in talking to teachers at different international schools here and regionally, it really makes a difference for young students pre-K to maybe grade 1 or 2 who haven't had a chance to or as much opportunity to learn to swim. And it's such an incredible or important life skill. We are also including a 5-meter by 10-meter training pool, which is just outside the kindergarten building. Full gymnasium, as you'll see, is literally just about ready to go. An international or regulation size pitch. And at either end of the pitch, there was enough room to do a regulation size outdoor basketball court at either end of that. So we will never, ever have an excuse that we don't have the opportunity to give students the chance to get out and be active. I know, I think in most cities and countries, a picture of a built parking lot is not too exciting. I think from my 18 months or 19 months in Bahrain, this may be the most welcome picture for a lot of parents. There will be 280 parking spots, 80 covered parking spots for parents at the entrance to the school. I know parking can be an issue in in Bahrain. More importantly, to me, this shows, I think, the community, the importance we place on parents and the fact that we welcome them. I've heard stories from different places and different countries where parents have to make an appointment just to walk in the school, which I find quite interesting. It won't be that at our school. I don't expect parents to walk into a classroom halfway through the class and tell their child if they're doing a good job or not. But there needs to be a balance, and parents are an integral part of everything we do. Just a few other pictures as we move along, and these change daily. This is the pitch. You can see floodlights there, so it'll be lit up at night. The turf is here. They're just going to wait right until the end to put the turf down in terms of weathering. The track and the synthetic surface will be put down around that time too, but it's all ready to go. Actually, they finished this about 2 months ago. Straight ahead, I guess 12 o'clock, is the main part of the 2-story building for the pre-K to grade 2. And to the left of that is the start of the grade 3 to 5 building, and the end of it to the left. And far to the left is the main cafeteria, library section and entrance. And to the left of that, grade 6 to 12. Here is our gymnasium. As I say, it's just about ready to go. They'll do the flooring soon, but structurally wise, it's complete. The pool, the 25-meter pool, to me, it doesn't look like 25 meters, but I actually counted it out when I was there just to make sure, and it was. It will be covered with shading for the first few years. We have provisioned in we can put in a roof and enclose it if we want in the future. This again is part of the grade 3 to 5 building, 2 floors for most part, and then 3 floors. Where it is 2 floors means that we can expand a number of years down the road if we want to. The school is built for a capacity of 1,200 students. That's what the capacity will be this September. And we will start somewhere between 100 and 200 students, and we continue to go through admissions and assessments. Here's a typical kindergarten class. Every kindergarten, KG 1, 2, and pre-kindergarten class will have its own bathroom and sink, and then sink outside. They're spacious. The architect designed it with the intent that the entire school gets natural sunlight, so there's lots of windows and glazing. And here's just a quick animation we had done just a few months ago, just a quick 1-minute animation. Okay, there we go. At the animation itself, well, 2 things. One is they did use the CAD drawings to make that, so it should be as real as possible. And those are the kind of things, that animation, that I would love to see our students involved in one day. Certainly what I learned in school is not what students need in 2020 and beyond. I show this picture. This is a picture of my family. It's an older picture. My parents are not alive. They were alive here, but and in fact, the 2 kids sitting on their laps in the front are my brother's twin daughters who are graduating from their IB diploma program in Canada this year. They were the unfortunate age who is graduating without a true graduation year. The reason I put this on there is in terms of my approach, my philosophy, my expectations. An international school outside of your second language, or in our case, Arabic language teachers, who actually often are from another country, but the majority of your teaching staff, usually 95% to 100%, when they're in an international school, that is not their home country. They are adventurous people. They are people who are accept challenges, usually have high expectations for themselves. And I felt, having been involved in international education for the last 18 years, is the staff you work with, the people at school are really your second family. And I will reinforce this with staff as part of my approach to what we are trying to achieve at ASB. And that is, the more we know about our students and our students' families, within reason, of course, the more we can serve their needs. So this is my family. I don't have a large extended family, and certainly they're not a tall extended family. In fact, here's a little fun fact. I am not a very tall guy, but I'm the tallest of 5 kids, which people find funny. And then when you see my own children in a few slides, you'll maybe do a double take. There's my younger son on the right, Callahan, who most of that gray hair on my head is from. He's 22. Shelley, my wife, who many of you have spoken to either on the phone or on email, is our admissions manager, a lifelong teacher herself. She taught MYP IB art for many years. And Mitchell, who on the left was the first McMaster, we think in history, I'm talking centuries, who broke the 6-foot mark. In fact, my wife looked back at our historical family tree, and we were often known as fairly short people. But then again, the reason I show you this is those are, my wife and I have been educators for our entire professional career. We have only 2 children. They're 22 and 24. There are still things that we're learning about them. And as parents, as you know, trying to do the best job you can as a parent, and that's only 2 kids. You think about a teacher who has 18, 20, 24 kids in a class and trying to meet their needs. If they approach it from a family standpoint of building relationships, of building trust, things like discipline or poor behavior or non-engagement, those things just naturally disappear. And I really feel strongly, our 2 sons are almost exactly 2 years apart. They're very, very different kids. They're both great. That's the younger one there, and I think grade 11 or 12. He's always been an exceptional athlete, tough as nails, was arguing before he could speak, and just very much his own personality. His older brother is much more like his mother, who is introspective, a little quieter than their father. And again, these are just 2 kids that we've known obviously since their birth. And we work hard at trying to understand what they need, what makes them tick, what doesn't make them tick. So when people ask me, what's the key to a successful school? What makes a quality school? How do you measure that? There's lots of easy quantitative measures. I've been in 2 IB schools, the IB World School in Hong Kong, that within 6 years of adopting the IB diploma, we had results in the top 10% of the world. That's an easy one to measure, and people would say, well, then you're successful. That's a little part of it. They might say, what percentage of your graduates go to their #1 choice of university, which is a very misleading number, by the way. That's somewhat easy. Or how many are going to university? How many are finishing university degrees? That's a quantitative thing that you can measure. How many students remain at your international school for more than 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 years? Those are all quantitative measures, and we should use that data to measure our success or lack thereof. But to me, I've been in hundreds and hundreds of schools, I've spoken on panels, I've worked with parents in 3 different countries at every age of child. To me, the #1 common thread in successful schools is our schools that work hard to make sure you have happy, engaged students and happy, engaged teachers. And I know that sounds like common sense, but it's not always so common. So one of my most important job is hiring great teachers in front of your kids. #1 by a long way. The other part of that, though, is creating an atmosphere and ethos where kids feel free to think, feel free to be curious, or understand that they can mess up and make mistakes and learn from those, that they're not afraid to question popular opinion respectfully. And we need to create that atmosphere where that barometer which is qualitative, is not quantitative, as much as it would be nice to have that, is, you know, 80 to 90 to 100% on a daily basis. We all have bad days. We have good days, hopefully a lot more of the latter. But to me, if you have this as a priority in your school, it really doesn't matter if you're teaching in a barn with IB, AP, American, British, European, Canadian, Bahraini, whatever curriculum. If you don't have this, you don't have the success of any of those. You don't become happy because you're academically successful. I think you become academically successful in part by being happy and exploring and being curious. Just very quickly, I'm really excited about my senior team. It was interesting because we've had a number of, Amal Darwish, who's our marketing manager, has done a great job of getting the word out and letting people know that we're real and we're going to be up and running in September. And I've been involved in a number of these, but I noticed that when they don't include my picture, but my 3 administrators, it gets picked up by every newspaper. So this has just gone out late, a little while ago. I will be the director of the school. Steve Bodner, a fellow Canadian, has nothing to do with the fact that he got the job. He was just the best person for the job. Another career educator. He's been an educator for 33 years. I'm not sure why he looks younger than me when he's older than me, but he does. He's spent the last 21 years as a principal of 3 different schools in Canada and has worked in 3 different countries. This will be his 4th. Some of you may know Sandra Al-Ajmi. She is the owner-operator of the Learning Tree Kindergarten and Nursery here in Bahrain, and she has been for the last 12 years. She spent many years in Kuwait as a teacher and administrator, and 3 states, I believe, in the US, where she's originally from. She's an expert in early childhood education, and I just felt it always is extremely important to have somebody who is well-versed, who is going to be a shoulder to cry on, is going to be an expert in the area of raising kids. She's got 4 grandchildren herself. Oh, no, I can't remember how many grandchildren I got, but she has 4 children. And she is going to be a calming influence in the early childhood section, where I know parents are so passionate about the education for their kids. Much of it is developing a sense of trust with your school and with the people who are in the school. Another gentleman, some of you might know, Mr. A.FUAD Al-ANZAROUTI, spent 20 years as an Arabic teacher and leader at St. Chris School. He spent the last 3 years as in charge of the Arabic language program at Rifa View School, and I'm very happy to have him be my go-to person with Arabic language and culture. He is a true expert in this area. He will be teaching a small amount and also provide leadership in that area. Just quickly about ESOL Education, the group that I work for. We have 2 partner groups in Bahrain, but the people I report to ultimately is a gentleman in that picture, Mr. Walid Abashakra. Mr. Abashakra is in his early 80s. He lives in Cairo. He goes to work every day. He's been an educator for 62 years. He and his family operate 9 schools. We will be the 10th, mostly in the Middle East, and I'll show you in a second. One of the reasons I agreed to come work for them is because of their extensive history as educators. It is a family business, but it's first and foremost about education. And every conversation we have, myself with him or his 2 sons who I work with closely, it's about education and making it the best we can for every student in our building. They are currently in Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Cyprus, Lebanon, Cairo, and Hong Kong. And we will be their 10th school, and proud to be. Our mission, to provide a challenging American international education that inspires students to pursue their passions, achieve their goals, and become responsible global citizens. And I bet you go to 20 international schools and they almost all look like this. The difference, I think, is how you refer to that mission. Every decision we make, we should be going back to, is this meeting our mission? If we're going to look at curriculum initiatives, or even building, or anything to do with a decision that's made on a daily basis, we need to go back. It shouldn't be something that's collecting dust at the top of of a bookshelf in the director's office. We need to live this, and that starts with the adults in the building. Our vision to be a happy and vibrant learning community, you'll see the word happy, and I know some people feel that's sort of a pie in the sky. I can't think of actually anything more important. If you asked 100 parents, what do you really want? Not about school, not about profession, what do you really want for your children now and in the future? I think most would say, I want them to be happy, and right now, we would say this more than ever, and healthy. So we really, this is something we need to live. And again, all the great academic success and success in the sports field or in the music room, none of that doesn't happen if you don't have happy, engaged people. We want a learning community that's, as it says there, known for its love of learning, excellence in community, and service to its community and beyond. And the community beyond part, I unashamedly, for the 12 years I was in Hong Kong, reminded our students on a fairly regular basis that they are a private international education is a privilege. And if you are lucky enough to be in a family that puts you in a private education system or international school, that is a privilege, and with that comes responsibility. My vision when I was a much younger principal back in the sort of late 90s, I guess, my boss came to me. I was principal of a large secondary school, about 1,800 students, and he did an evaluation of me into my second year, and he had lots of great, nice things to say. And you're going, well, here, but there, here's some things you need to work on. And he said the biggest issue is I think you're doing a good job, but I can't find a single person that knows what your vision is, and you're the principal of this school. Since that time, I guess 22 or so years ago, I've tried to make sure that I communicate to my staff, to the students, to the parents, what my vision is. And it hasn't changed a lot. I want staff who love to come to work, and that's up to me to hire people like that. I want students to feel like they're really, they're important themselves, and they have a sense of belonging, and that they in 10 or 20 or 30 years can reflect back to their experience at American School of Bahrain with a sense of warmth and a happy time in their life. I want people to be proud, but as a Canadian, also humble at the same time. Be proud of what you can achieve, but conduct yourself with a sense of humbleness. The lifelong learning is so important, and that's pervasive, and that we're always changing. Getting back to that, the briefcase or the suitcase teacher. I don't want people thinking that what they learned in the past is going to carry them through. Your children, as I'm sure you've heard many times, will be doing and participating in jobs that don't exist right now. And if we're not constantly reinventing ourselves, if we're not constantly looking ways to try something new and to take risks, we won't be doing our students any service. Again, working on positive relationships, and I want students to leave as confident, contributing members of their community and to whatever community they end up in. Just a few facts about the school. We get asked these kind of things a lot. Classes, hopefully, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, and I'm sure it'll come up in questions, are due to start September 7th. The tentative time for pre-KG would be 7:50 a.m. to 12:50, and for the rest of the school, 7:50 to 2:50. The classes for September, we will go right now to a maximum of 2 classes, pre-K to grade 1, and then 1 class after that. And for those of you who might have a grade 9 student, we just this week have decided that if well, we've been talking about it a long time because we've had people express interest. We are at the number now that we want a minimum of 8 to 10 confirmed students to add a grade 9 class, and we're just about at that. And so we've sent out a message to people who have grade 9 children, grade 8 now, and to see if they're absolutely interested, because we will do that. Just very quickly about the school itself and the academics. It will be a holistic approach to what we do. We want students who are not only setting their own bar for academics high, but we want them to have the opportunity to participate in athletics, arts, extracurricular activities, because we really want them to pursue their passions. You know, a great academic student might find out he or she has this incredible passion for visual arts or soccer, football. And so we want them to have that opportunity. We plan on developing programs and extracurricular activities that will meet those needs. STEAM, was STEM for a long time: science, technology, engineering, art, and math. And really it boils down to taking those subject areas and not just doing them independently or in isolation, but really real world stuff where these things are relevant to each other. And so with our STEAM lab and our Makerspace lab, this will be an opportunity for students to explore projects and activities. Early childhood will be pre-kindergarten, 3-year-old to kindergarten, KG2. So those 3 years, this is the area that Sandra Al-Ajmi will directly oversee. It's about inquiry, it's play-based. If you're looking for a school where your 5-year-old has 2 hours of homework a night, this isn't the right place. If you're looking for a place where you feel like the harder they work, kids this age, academically, it's probably not the right place. They are going to develop very well academically, but they're going to do it in an age-appropriate way. And kids are programmed to play, and they learn through play. They don't need to know that they're learning numeracy or they're learning literacy. They will be, but they're going to do it through much more natural activities. Elementary school will be grade 1 to 5, and this is an incredible time of growth for students who are really going from not infants, but children to when they're finished this grade 5 going into middle school to adolescence, followed by being young adults. And this really, as it says here, it really is the time where we set the stage for a love of learning. They'll still be child-centered. There'll be some play-based, but more project-based. And then literacy and numeracy skills will provide their foundation. And again, there will be lots of hands-on, curiosity, inquiry, and you will not see students sitting down for hours at a time taking notes from the board. That's a tiny part of it. There's still teacher-directed instruction that's required, but there's going to be a variety of ways that they achieve this. Middle school, it was my favorite, always my favorite age to teach. But I tell you that it's, for some people, I would say the most interesting age. Kids this age are really developing their personalities, they're developing their opinions, they're really looking at themselves internally, their self-worth. And it's an extremely important age emotionally and socially. This is a bridge from teacher-dependent homerooms, along with specialty teachers, to doing things a lot more on their own, developing their confidence and their learning. And then it will be also a liberal arts approach with math, science, English, social studies, band, PE, visual arts, and Arabic language. High school, we didn't plan on being high school next year, but as I said, we may have a grade 9, so we will maybe have part of a high school. And I'll just go through this quickly because it's the educators have way too many acronyms, but NGSS, Arrow, this is part of the Common Core, new generations, and so I've got a block right now, but Arrow, these are the standards that are providing the framework for grade 9, English, math, science, history, geography, electives, and that will change depending on a student's interest as they get older. The students will find it academically rigorous. We still expect a balance of that SMILE index and academic rigor. We want them to be able to think critically. We want them to think on their own. We want them to know how to research and manage their own time. They will still need to work within groups because this is what they'll be doing when they leave high school and go to university or work. Those who are going into grade 11, actually it starts a little bit in grade 10. The IB diploma program will be an option. It won't be mandatory. It's an extremely challenging academic program. I've now been in 2 schools with IB diploma programs. It's not for everybody, but for those students who do plan on going into it, there are 6 areas of study, including a second language that all students must take up until the end. There are a few areas that are part of it. Theory of knowledge, which I've said before, I think is the best course in high school. The extended essay, which is really equivalent to a first or second year essay, is done over a 2-year period, a 4,000 word research essay. And then creativity, action, and service. And this is community. It could be 200 hours. They're coaching an elementary soccer team, or they're involved in a project that's challenging their creative side, and then service to the community. I'm going to leave it there because I know there's going to be questions. That's Shelley McMaster, my wife. She is the admissions manager. If you have questions, admissions@asb.bh. We highlighted the website there because there's an easy area to just navigate. And if you have any questions or inquiries, you can go through that and learn much more about our admissions process. And just before any questions?
I have a straightforward question. Just, in terms of not so much class sizes, because obviously you can't guarantee a minimum or a maximum in any class right now. Mm-hmm. But in terms of students' individual attention, some kids are able to thrive in a classroom, whereas others maybe lack a little bit of confidence. What do you guys do in order to encourage, confidence, and maybe for some kids to come out of their shell slightly, as opposed to, kind of be left in the back and forgotten as the student who doesn't speak so much out in class?
Well, I guess two things, and I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to at the start in terms of class size, etc. I don't think there's actually a better way of drawing out that than starting a new school where everybody is new, and no, there won't be cliques of kids or adults or any, and believe me, teachers can get in cliques too. But I really, at the core, it's what I said earlier, is I hope that we have an atmosphere and an ethos of acceptance, and again, starting from scratch. This is the best time to set the tone, to explain what the expectations are. And I'm not talking rules, I'm talking about how we conduct ourselves, what it is we value. And with a smaller number to start, like any school starts, I hope that is something that we can draw upon. And from the education side, I am going to be working closely with my teachers to make sure that those students who might sit at the back and just go about their business, and they might be a little more quiet and introverted, and that might be what they want, but there's times when they've got to, we've got to get everybody out of their comfort level. And I think the more they trust and the more they feel part of something, and a sense of belonging, the more likely you're going to draw that out.
Hi, I had a question about differentiation in the classroom. Mm-hmm. I have 3 kids, and my eldest was always one of the brightest kids in the class. But as a result, because she wasn't giving the teachers any trouble, I felt like she was never challenged. On mm-hmm. the other end of the spectrum, I have a son who I feel has been allowed to fall through the cracks in Arabic, for example, because there were just so many kids in the class. Mm-hmm. They kind of expected everybody to fit into a certain box, and you were either in the box or out of the box. So, I'm kind of dealing with 2 different issues here, where one isn't being challenged enough, and on the other hand, I feel like one has been neglected because mm-hmm. they don't have the time to give him the attention he needs. So I'm wondering, right. Your class sizes will probably be smaller, which to me is an advantage. But in general, as a school, what's your policy in terms of how you deal with things like that?
Well, I can tell you that differentiation in a classroom, and that's why I brought up our own 2 kids, I think is the greatest challenge that teachers face. The classes will range from 18 to 24 students. It'll probably be less than that the first few years. And with your older daughter and being bright and probably never causing problems, it's actually why the research says that girls are often sort of left to be on their own more than boys in school, because boys are a little more likely to be a little more rambunctious or attracting attention, which does affect learning. But again, purely from differentiation, and I'm probably going to sound like a stuck record, but the more, you know, the more that somebody knows what your older daughter, who's bright and perhaps quiet, what makes her tick and what doesn't make her tick, and she could probably just do the work without anybody noticing. The more that a teacher knows about her and maybe her skill set, the more that they can address that in terms of support. And the other way around, that you know, somebody who sort of maybe slips through the cracks, that shouldn't happen if you're even in a middle school grade 7 class of 24 hormones and runners. The more you know about those kids, the more that you're going to be able to fend off kids slipping through the cracks, or not meeting, you know, that bright child who just goes with the flow and is never really challenged, and pretty hard to develop a love of learning if you're just going through the motions. And so again, I think it's much more about approach. It's much more about expectation and atmosphere. I think one of the things, from my standpoint, the people who are expected to be leaders in the school, getting out and about and being in classrooms and being on the field and being in the hallways and being visible both to students and to teachers, I think communicates a message that we are working on relationships and we're working on getting to know each other better. And again, working on developing that trust. The last thing I'll say is, which is vital, is if I have a parent phone me or contact me and say, my son's in grade 6 and I don't think he's getting the attention he needs, my first response will be, have you spoken to the teacher about this? Has your son spoken to your teacher? Well, he's grade 6. You're right. That's probably to grade 10. I might tell the son to speak to the teacher himself. But the more I think that we don't have an excuse in 2020. In fact, we over communicate versus under communicate in things that maybe we shouldn't. But I think the more that parents feel welcome in the school, and welcome from the sense that it's okay to communicate with teachers, it's okay to ask a question or questions, and that they know they're going to get an answer. And I'll probably make lots of decisions people don't like, whether it's teachers or parents, but I think you'll know what my decisions are, and I'll hopefully communicate it clearly. I think parents need to be understanding that they can't, if it's the case, they can't sit back and just expect the teacher to do it. It has to be a three-way system with the student, the parent, and the teacher, and that communication has to be there. And I really find it hard to believe in 2020 you can't communicate with somebody, because there's so many avenues to do it. We will have a program called Power School, which will have a parent portal. So it should be seamless for parents to communicate with parents and vice versa. And the whole idea also, and I know this is sort of years old stuff, but the whole idea of when you talk about somebody maybe that's slipping through the cracks or bright, you shouldn't be finding out how your child's doing November 20th on the first reporting period. There are ways, and I'm not just talking about numbers and letters and you've got a 92 or you've got a B, really understanding what your child's learning journey has been, and technology helps that. A level of open communication helps that. So that doesn't mean there's never going to be a child who slips through the cracks at ASB or a bright child who's not being challenged. I hope we, as I said earlier, fend off that by being open and welcoming. And certainly from my standpoint, Steve, Sandra, and A.FUAD, who are, for lack of a better term right now, the leaders in the school, they have been hired because I know they're going to be open door like myself.
Can I ask you a question, Jay?
Sure.
It's sort of more a practical one, because when we came to Bahrain this year, our daughter had to do a medical according to the Bahraini educational system before she started the school. Will she have to do the same for American school now? And if so, when can that be done? Because so many parents will leave Bahrain for the summer. So if we can prepare for it now or in August.
I have absolutely no clue. However, Asma, do you have any idea if a student was at a school, school X. And when they got here from another country, they had to do a physical or medical.
A student?
Yes, student.
No, we just need the vaccination record.
Asma, who knows way more about this than me, said we just need the vaccination record. She's surprised that she had to, that might be more of a visa thing than it was. Oh, okay. So at the school they
needed a school, yeah. And it was actually on a, I'm gonna say, a formal Bahraini health declaration. She had to do it. I can send you the copy later on.
That'd be good. Asma's looking at me surprised because the school she was at, students that came in from another country never had to get a medical or a physical. I know that teachers do that, or not just teachers, anybody. You either have to do it and have it before you come, or you have to get it. I did that when I came here. But I'll find out, Elizabeth. That's
and one more question
yeah.
Regarding their grade 8. Are they going to do this electives when they arrive to school or prior? Usually they some subjects.
Yeah, in grade 8 they're not really this year going to have electives per se. Okay. They will have specialty courses. They will have all grade 5 dates will be part of a band, whether they've ever played an instrument or not. I can't think of a better job if you're really good at it. And if you're not, I can't think of a job that I would have a more difficult. And I grew up in a musical family, but yes. And so they'll have visual arts, they'll have band or music earlier. What am I forgetting? Art, phys ed, etc. Now we'll also have, we're going to build an extracurricular program in terms of that sort of, I'm trying to think of the name, where you might go drama for 6 weeks and art for 6 weeks and something else. We're not doing that yet. We really want to get the school up and running, see what the students here want, what works. We're making sure that we have a large enough variety that we try to meet a lot of different needs and passions. But so they will have that, and then there will also be extracurricular activities as well.
Great.
Just an addendum to that. Let's say we don't have drama in a class next year, and we know it's an area that kids would be interested in. We would make sure that that's something that they could do outside. I can't see too many musicals or drama productions next year, or at least next fall, depending on what happens. But in normal times, certainly if we didn't have that in class, we would endeavor to have some sort of opportunity for those kids. In fact, I've met a few young actors through these interviews so far. So it's been quite comical. There it is. So that is, if you go up a little bit, Prince, that's nursery and kindergarten. We tried to make it as not casual, but comfortable and practical. We were shown a lot of different versions of, you can go up, keep going up. We were shown, down. A lot of versions of more formal things, which I'm not really interested in, especially with the weather we have here, and we expect kids to be outside as much as possible, except when it gets too hot. So these are the core colors of the school. And I know core colors isn't the word. Shelley, as an art teacher, can tell me what the word is. We've interviewed a number, I'll go back one. We've interviewed a number of middle school students, and it's pretty funny because I try to talk to them each time they're here now virtually. One of the questions that they ask is, would we be allowed to wear hoodies? And that's the first time I'd ever been asked that, but yes, there will be a hoodie option, and phys ed option, etc. So the Pantones at the bottom are school colors, sort of a deep red, blue, and light blue. They have numbers, but okay, I think that's good, thanks. I'm not, one more. And jackets, which again, coming from Canada and seeing puffy jackets, I just think it's funny, but it does get cool here. And of course there's no heat inside. So yeah, so those are, it'll be through one of the local companies that does a number of schools. And we don't have the price list or anything, but those generally are, you're the first people to see that actually.
I wanted to ask as well, I've had a few people wonder this also, the incorporation, you know, it's an international school, but it is an international school in Bahrain. You know, I know some parents have been wondering, you know, how much will Arabic be part of the day-to-day at the school? Like, is it treated as a fringe subject or a core subject? And also in terms of cultural holidays or religious holidays, will those be celebrated at the school as well as, you know, other religious holidays and that kind of thing, given that it's an international school?
Yeah, essentially two very different questions, but related. In terms of Arabic language, there is a very specific, I don't know if the right word is edict, but very specific number of classes we have to provide Arabic students at the school per week. At our school, up until grade, every student will have the same amount, whether you're from Canada or Sweden or wherever else. And it will be similar to what the ministry mandates, with a bit of a twist. And I don't think this is a big twist. Different international schools do it differently, and I think some schools that are international in Bahrain are a little bit different in terms of maybe a more international school, but a Bahraini international school. And I don't say that's not a good thing. But when we hired A.FUAD, I specifically made his title Arabic language, head of Arabic language and culture. We are an American curriculum school in somebody else's country, but we are an international school. So from the Arabic language point, and I've met with a few parents about this, I still want to create something, I just don't know what it is yet, where those who want to maintain to a certain level their child's Arabic language, their understanding of the economy, the history, etc., more so than what they're going to get in class. I really want to have some way of doing Arabic language and culture plus. I've done this with other schools and different programs in Hong Kong with Mandarin, but I have to find a way to balance, so we're not expecting kids to do their regular academic work and then an extra 2 hours of Arabic language, because we'll lose them. But the fact is, if you really want to be your language, if your heritage language is Arabic, you will lose some in an international school that English is the medium of instruction. That's a fact, and it's a fact no matter what country you go to. Unless you're in a bilingual school where it might be 50-50, and then the parents are sometimes concerned that the English slips a little bit. Believe me, the English catches up. But so from the language standpoint, the majority of students who we have, if they take, you know, the IB program, for instance, the majority of the language that they'll have is their what's called language A or B, will be Arabic. But we have students, we have students from Italy, Spain, Argentina, Sweden, and so many different places coming in that we will eventually have to have other languages. But when you say, is it a second language? Well, technically it is. But really, because we're in the Middle East and we're in Bahrain, it really is a core language. I don't know if that makes sense. Regarding the other holidays, how do I say this? I don't think we're giving students, and I might have some disagreeers on this. We haven't even started, and I might. I really think as an international school, we have to recognize if we're truly an international school and we're promoting international mindedness, I think it would be remiss if we didn't celebrate other cultures and religions and identity, and not from a religious standpoint. We're a non-secular school. We will, Islamic will, and the Quran will be taught. That's mandatory in international schools. And we are in a country with a high percentage of people who are Muslim. But if, we want to celebrate Halloween from a non-secular standpoint, where it's more of a celebration. It's meant to be fun. You can do some learning around it, or around Christmas time have Christmas carols. It should never come across as a religious a religious function. It's really celebrating other cultures and religions, and I think we should be doing that. Not at the expense of Arabic language and the Muslim religion, because we live in Bahrain. But yeah, I think that's what your second part of your question was getting at, and I would like to see, and this is where we need to develop trust with parents. One thing I won't do, having been through this long enough and gotten better at this in my career, is if I have 3 parents there's going to be a school dance for age appropriate kids, and the staff and the parents and the kids are organizing it. And I have 3 parents who are just absolutely against it. Then I'm probably going to disappoint those 3 parents, because I think we're a community. We listen to the community. We listen to what they're concerned about, what their questions are. But at the end of the day, we go back to our mission. What is it in our mission? And does this follow what we're trying to achieve? I hope that answers your questions.
It does, yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
I would like to ask about the timing. I'm not sure if I've missed it, but what are the timings of the school?
7:50 in the morning to 2:50. Now that's tentative. It's going to be around that. This is what we've come up with, whether it's exactly like that or not, but and then pre-kindergarten would be till 12:50. I don't, okay. Sorry, just to interrupt. I don't plan, and this might be me being naive, having only been here 18 months, I don't plan on having one grade stop at 12:50, another grade stop at 1:30, another grade stop at 2 o'clock, another grade. I just don't think it makes a lot of sense. We won't be in the craziness of the traffic across the 16th of December highway across from us with the schools that are over there. And we have, as I say, we have a lot of parking, and we have a complete interior road within our campus. And so that will avoid having to have those multiple end times at the school.
Okay, thank you. I would like also to ask, please, is there going to be after school activities? Yes.
Yeah, I can't tell you. Well, I could probably have a good idea of what those will be. Part of this will depend on what we're allowed to do. Let's say it's not COVID time. Yeah, it's going to be such a good campus to offer an incredible variety of things, and you can't be everything to all people. But I think we have the facilities, certainly the sports facilities. We'll have, it's part of the teacher's contract, and I can't tell you if this is the same for every international school here in Bahrain. They are expected to be involved in the lives of students outside of class, whether that's sponsoring a chess club, or 3 or 4 teachers getting together and doing a spring musical, or coaching the grade 12 basketball team, or whatever. Yeah, and where we don't have staff to do it, we'll build small, but we'll build it up, an extracurricular program that we try to consider what's in demand. And that will obviously, for instance, I've been approached, and I said this last time too, so I've been approached by a company, a dance company, and they asked, will you have a dance program? Well, I don't plan on having a dance program from anybody on my staff. Well, they might, I don't know. But if we can have a reputable dance company be on our site 2 or 3 times after school, and it would be a paid activity, then we will do that. But yes, there would be a long-winded way of saying yes, we will have extracurricular programs.
Okay, great. One last question, please. As we are actually debating whether to live in Bahrain or commute, because we are currently in Saudi, will there at any point be any sort of transportation that would take from, because I know that some of the schools in Bahrain do that, but since you're new, I'm sure this is also new. So
yeah, no, I do know about that, because I was with 2 people who had an argument about this, not our staff, but 2 people I golf with, who said, no, you can't come from Bahrain and go to school in Saudi, or go, which is different, or go from Saudi, live in Saudi, come to school here. The latter was wrong. There are buses that pick kids up at the border and bring them in. Whether we do that or not, I actually had planned on meeting with some Aramco HR people mid-February. Of course, couldn't do that. But yeah, we'd be open to it. We're not going to have boarding. I know you didn't ask that, but well, in the near future, we have room for it, but I don't think we'll do it. But yeah, I would think that's a possibility. We've narrowed down a transport company who can't really give us prices yet because we've got to get all the addresses and whatnot as we grow. And so, I mean, if I had it my way, it would be 100% busing, and more from a sustainability and environmental approach. I know that's not what happens generally, because, and I understand people wanting to drop off their child, because I would love to see the kids come to school and then the moms come or dads come and say hi to the teachers and whatnot in the morning. But I don't know yet. I do know that happens, but we haven't made any plans for that yet. If we had the demand, we certainly would look at it, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
One more question, Dave.
Sure.
I have. I had a look at the calendar yesterday, and it was great to have a look at it finally. One question: International Day, will that be celebrated at the school? If so, when?
Yeah, we'll for sure have an International Day or week or whatever. I don't know. This is gonna. Okay. I probably should admit this in front of however many people are on this, but is there a specific day? Any school I've ever been in has had some form of international celebration where kids can you know, bring Swedish food or a game that was made with for Nepalese family or whatever, to celebrate the different cultures around the world. I have no idea when we would do that, or if there is a specific time. Any school I've been in so far, and that doesn't really mean anything because every country is different, it's just really been a time, and it's usually based, they try to base it through a few grade levels and incorporate it into their curriculum, but I don't know when yet.
Okay.
In different schools here, they sometimes do it around National Day.
Right, okay, yeah.
Which is in
So
December.
just before Christmas, yeah. Yeah, I've seen that.
Hi, Dave. This is Vanessa. I have a question, actually. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Great. It's, again, a little more clarity regarding the Arabic classes. Is this something that they're going to be having like on a daily basis, like 1 hour a day, or, you know, a few times a week? I just didn't really get a good grasp of
there is a specific, well, it's usually on my board right behind me. That's okay. There's a specific number of classes that the Ministry of Education expects all schools to deliver at various grade levels. It goes down a bit after about grade 3, and that is because there's a more variety of programming that goes on there. Our plan right now is around 20 to 30 minutes every day for pre-K and KG1. That's not it. We don't have to do that. We just feel that we should be doing that. And I've talked to our head of language, or head of Arabic language, about that, and that's our plan. We, at the KG2, or equivalent to year 1, to I think it's year 3 or 4, I think it's 5 or 6 times a week, plus Islamic studies for Arabic students, and social studies, or really the history and culture of Bahrain, once a week. So we will adhere to all those, and then add that at the pre-K and KG1 level.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. That definitely makes it more clear. I appreciate it.
One of the things that is not clear for us, and maybe they purposely leave it slightly open or flexible, is it's, let's say KG2 to grade 2 or 3 is 5 or 6 times a week. They don't say where that 5 or 6 5 minutes periods, or 5 or 6 60-minute periods. And I have actually asked clarification of a couple of heads here, and they said, well, we've never been told specifically, nor have we asked. And so they'll let you know if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, I'm sure.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
I just have a question, maybe. Sorry, you go ahead.
Sorry, just have a quick question. In regards to homework, what system do you have in place for elementary, or in general, how is homework like for the school?
Well, I wouldn't call it a system as much as a philosophy, and we'll develop this in greater clarity once we have all the teachers here. My feeling for homework, we won't be doing what the Bahraini government decided to do. And I'm not saying they didn't do what they've what they've mandated for a good reason, because I love the idea of no homework for elementary because we want them being more active. I'm not sure I'd throw the baby out with the bathwater. I would like to see homework in elementary as an extension of learning of what they're doing during the school day. My 14 years experience in Hong Kong, homework locally is usually given so that the parents feel like the teacher is doing their job, and the person that sometimes suffers from it are the students who develop a bit of a distaste for learning. Not always, but sometimes. I would like to see an extension and to provide, I think, again, with parent input, we'll make the decision in the end, but as educators, but I would like to see, personally, I think it's a great idea not perhaps to have formal homework on weekends or holidays. Kids should be acting like kids. That doesn't mean they don't need to do homework, or if they haven't kept up with things, that they're not going to have to catch up at home with homework or whatever. But and the expectation of time will have to increase, and we'll give general guidelines. You know, at this grade, this amount of maybe home extension, and this grade, etc. Because I can tell you, by the time, if they're not used to that a little bit, by the time those students are going to take the IB diploma, you're really almost in first and second year university by then. You're expected to be somewhat independent with support of your teachers and your parents, but you're going to have to be independent of and the American curriculum. It's very academic when you get up to grade 11, 12. You just don't start doing that when you're in grade 11 and 12. I see a much better process of building on that as a child matures from a child to an adolescent to a young adult. And really by grade 11, 12, for all graduation, all intents and purposes, adults. But I would like to see a process and really an understanding and a philosophy versus a set of rules.
Are you going to have a learning support department at the school?
Yes, the learning support department at the school first year will consist of 2 people. There would be a full-time learning support teacher who's an experienced learning support teacher who will work with teachers and students who may be struggling. We do not have a special needs department. We may look at that down the road. And by that, I mean, if we can't support a child learning and the chance of being happy and successful and feel like they belong, then we wouldn't accept that student, because it's probably not a good match. And not because we don't want them there, but because we couldn't support them. But we have a teacher coming from Cairo who's worked in the States, Cairo and Guatemala, who is a learning support specialist, and she'll be there. And we'll also have a English as a second language teacher. And I know for Bahraini kids, in the countries I've been in, they probably have the strongest English of host countries that I've visited. But that said, sometimes the oral part of the language is strong, and the comprehension or the written, for some kids, not all, is where they need work. And so those will be the 2 people. And again, we'll grow with it. It should grow organically depending on the needs of the kids in our school. And I go back again to the same thing. The more we know about the students in our school, the more we'll be able to fit the right programs and teachers to support them. But yes, there'll be 2 people to start.
I had a quick question on the arts program. You know, if you could elaborate slightly on it, arts and music, and I don't know if you have any examples of success stories or from previous schools.
Well, I'll give you, it's actually funny you said that, because I was just going to say a school, I got to be careful sometimes about a school I used to work in stories. The school I was at in Hong Kong, and as I think many of you can appreciate, a place like Hong Kong, which is academically driven to a fault, great kids, great families, but perhaps the expectation sometimes is not lined up with an age-appropriate level. But the school I was in, called the Canadian International School, which started in 1991, a group of Chinese Canadians, and the government had said, can you help us get a school going? We want to get people back from Canada and the US and the UK. Could you do a Canadian school? And they had no clue what they're doing, but they obviously did a very good job, because they opened in 91, and there was a lot of pressure to focus at an early time in that school's history on academics. Academics are really easy to sell to parents, not all parents. they had a principal there for the first year or two, then he left, and they had a gentleman named Neil Johnson who came from a specialized music, fine and performing arts school in Toronto. So he made a deal with them that if he could bring in the fine and performing arts program, the academics would get better, which they of course said, that's not possible. You're taking time out of academics. The school over the next 15, 20 years became, and that's the school I was talking about, that 6 years after they started the IB diploma, they were in the top 10% of the world in terms of their IB marks. And I think the average is about 38 for those who might know IB diploma, which is about 8 points, which is very significant, higher than the world average. I attribute a lot of Neil's vision to that success. And because he emphasized the need for the fine and performing arts in terms of well-roundedness, in terms of finding those kids who might have an incredible passion. I remember one year, about 8 years ago, we just had, Shelley, my wife, taught art, and she was talking about this group of kids who were just so incredibly artistic. And it's hard to convince in Hong Kong, and as no slight against anybody in Hong Kong, we've got a lot of great friends there, that your child should go into anything except medicine, law, or business. There are lots of lawyers and doctors and businessmen out there, and women. And we had this group who were incredibly artistic. 5 of them ended up with full ride scholarships to the University of Chicago art program, one of the best in the world. Once other parents found out that the average scholarship was 130,000 US in art scholarships, way more than they're getting for academic, there was starting to, and it wasn't just the money side, but they understood that universities valued students who are a lot better rounded than just pure academics. The University of Pennsylvania, for those of you who don't know, is an Ivy League school, a very good one. I met with the past president of Yale when I was in Hong Kong, and we had a girl who was applying to Yale, and he said, well, let me talk to her. And so she came up and he asked, what do you want to do? And she said, I want to go to Yale and I want to study business. He said, why Yale? And she said, well, because it's one of the greatest schools in the world. He goes, it is, but why don't you apply to the University of Chicago business program? Because it's actually a better business program than the Yale program. And then he gave the example that year at the University of Pennsylvania, 3,000 first-year applicants had perfect SATs and had a 98% average or higher. And he said, what do you do besides study? She says, I'm a concert pianist. He says, you've got a really great chance to get into all those programs because you do something other than just pure academics. So I don't care, I'm not concerned about people or students becoming concert pianists, but I certainly think they need a lot more variety of skills and exposure than pure academics. As again, if you have a happy, engaged campus, the academics is going to come. You've got parents who care about their child's education. You've got great teachers. You've got a good facility. We don't really have many other excuses unless a child has a learning difficulty or their learning need, and that's normal. So we hope to make sure that we, one, leverage the facilities we have. I'm really excited about the art teacher and our music/band teacher. Music/band teacher is in Vietnam right now. He got there 6 or 7 years ago. He's a Canadian, worked in Hong Kong for many years. I never knew him there or in Canada. He got there and there were 5 kids in a middle school band. Today there's 250 kids in that band and they travel throughout Vietnam, except now they can't in the spring because of what's going on. However, I want program builders when I hire people. The art teacher I've hired, who's taught 2 different boys' schools in London, 2 different campuses, is not just a visual arts, very talented. He's also interested in design tech and how you integrate design technology into visual arts programs, etc. Those are the kind of things that I hope turn kids on who might have a spark that they never thought of. They're going to be better academic students if they have exposure to these other things. I don't want to say we're not going to do band in grades 6, 7, 8 because we don't have enough time for math or English. we will always have enough time for math. Well, maybe not today because schools aren't open, but we'll always have enough time for math and English. I really think what gets cut out is some of those fine and performing arts. We'll have a fully equipped food technology class. I don't even know how we're going to use it yet, but I just felt when I was touring schools during the first few months here, touring schools in the UAE and other countries, that this is an area that most kids here probably wouldn't get exposure to. My mom told me I couldn't take home ec in grade 9 because I was a boy and I had to take woodwork. I hope we're way, way, way past that now. And so I feel like if we can give them that exposure, I don't expect kids to take food tech and become chefs. I don't expect kids to take Mr. Rogel's band class, grade 5 through 8, and become solo saxophonists in New York City. But if they have that exposure and they have that opportunity, I really do think it's going to put them in a position when they know that kind of thing is important. It's just as important as their math and their social studies and their science, etc. So I'm not sure if that's what you were specifically asking, but it will maintain a high priority for what we do.
No, that's exactly what I was talking about. Thank you.
I have a few questions. That's okay.
How many's a few? Just kidding.
They're all related though. I just wondered, are admissions currently subject to an assessment? And if they are, how long after the assessment would the school let us know if our kids are accepted or not?
Probably depends on which grade.
He's in grade 6 right now. He's going to grade 7.
Well, any grade 6 or 7, we need to see report cards. If they have a standardized test at some point, if they're in an American system, most have what's called MAP. And Shelley's gonna, if she sees me, is gonna say I got this wrong. I always call it measurement of academic performance, but I think the P stands for something else. But it's a standardized test. It just gives us a ballpark sort of value of whether a student's, hitting the mark in their grade level. So those can take a little longer. Once we have that information, we'll do an interview with anybody. It doesn't matter if they're 3, which has been really funny, or grade 8. I would normally interview anybody sort of grade 3 or 4 to grade 8 anyways, just to talk to them, and especially the parents as much as we can. We talk to the parents to make sure that they understand what we're all about. And I don't want a parent bringing their child to our school if we're not the right match. I want them to take them to the school that's the right match. And there's too much talk in too many countries where it becomes more of a business decision on whether you take a kid or student or not, whether or whether your program is the right match for that child. But it's pretty quick. We interviewed one of the best ones, and I wish I would have recorded it. We interviewed a child and his mother in their car the other day because the other child was inside and was going to make too much noise. But yeah, we respond, or Shelley responds quite quickly within a day or two of having all the material. And again, for grade 6 or 7, that would take a little longer. I know it's been a struggle for some people because they can't necessarily get that information quickly unless they have copies of it at home, because some of the schools don't have staff in them right now. Most actually have somebody.
Okay, thank you.
That wasn't a few.
Well, thank you.
Any others? It's 3:26, and so I've kept you guys on here for quite a while. If there's any other last questions, please ask. We're very easy to contact. Admissions is admissions@asb.bh. My email is dmcmaster@asb.bh. And like many of you, I spend far too much time in front of a screen looking at these kind of things, but I'm happy to. Or you can always phone us. Ordinarily, we invite people into our office at any time to have a chat and to learn more about the school, but this is why we're doing this. And also the info at Sausan Shaker, who is our executive assistant who checks it every day. info@asb.bh is another one, just general questions about the school, and she either gets back to you or passes it along to one of us. Any last questions? And if not, I want to thank everybody for hanging in there for a lot of my long-winded answers. It's like you, I am crossing my fingers and toes that we eventually get back to some normalcy. I feel the Bahraini government's done a very good job, and I feel safe. But this isn't real world, and I hope the real world comes back soon. So once again, thank you very much. And again, if you have any questions, let us know. Have a great day, everybody, and a great week. Thank you.
Thank you very much.